Hello and welcome to UGC E-Pathshala project. I am Sheetal Arora, Assistant Professor Criminology at Sardar Patel University of Police, Security and Criminal Justice, Jodhpur. And I am going to present a module on History of Indian Police and Policing in Modern India, 1857 onwards. Let's begin with learning objectives of this module. First, to make learners understand history of Indian police. Second, to understand various aspects regarding evolution of Indian police. Third, to understand various developmental processes regarding policing in modern India. Present-day police is an important functionary of criminal justice system in India. Primary role it has been playing since time immemorial is of order maintenance. Through with the advent of codified laws and regulations, the nature and specificity of their roles are undergoing vast changes, where one can see its movement towards service style of policing, though retaining its traditional role of order maintenance. With the system which existed in Mughals era somewhat retained during imperial rule of the British in India, where first time police as an organized structure emerged after the enactment of Police Act 1861. Nevertheless, it was seen as mere tool of then government for keeping control over people and mere protecting the imperial interest of the British rulers of that time. India being an important trade market for them, thus the concerns of collecting revenues, keeping the trade routes safe was of consideration only. Nowhere mandate of serving the common man was ever into consideration. Since changing time, globally, when democratic policing and Peel's concept of policing became popularized, India still was having a police to mere fulfill the imperial interest. This presentation describes the origin, the organization, the changing roles and the challenges which somehow became the reason for its present-day stature of Indian police. A formal police system existed in ancient India. Ramayana and Mahabharata both describe the efforts of local administrators who were responsible for the safety and security of citizens and for keeping the king informed about the welfare of the people. In Arthashastra, Kautilya by Chanakya has described in detail the system of internal surveillance and the variety of posts that were created to provide security in the kingdom. In ancient history of Indian police, the references are given regarding secret agents. They were considered as tool of governance or eyes of king. The classification of the Chanakya has been followed in the most police secret services around the world. Now something about policing system established by the Mughals in the medieval period. A more elaborate and formal policing system was established during their long control lasting 3 centuries. Police and public work duties were entrusted to an official known as Mutazib. According to N.A. Akbari, the administrative structure consisted of Faujdari, the principal representative of the emperor, Mir Adil, and Qazi, the head of judicial department, and Kotwal, the chief police official of larger cities. The routine day of the police was to patrol throughout day and night to guard the vantage, a place or position affording a good view of something. Leading men were appointed wardens in every quarter of the city, and thus public cooperation was enlisted. The Kotwal maintained a register of inhabitants within his limits, noting down their address and their occupation. They also noted the arrival and departure of strangers and kept a track of them. A Faujdar was appointed to every administrative unit of the government, which was the district, and he also maintained some artillery, that is large caliber guns used in warfare on land, and cavalry in the past, soldiers who fought on horseback. Forces, thanedars were appointed dividing the parganas, a group of villages or a subdivision of district in India, into small localities. All these positions and even the system were not independent of the military. Most of the officers were seen as part of the army establishments, and during wars that was frequent, these officers and their men would participate in armed conflicts along with regular army. This was true about the forces everywhere around the world till a formal system was established in London by Robert Peel in 1829. Success of civilian police force that worked with the cooperation of people was the new experiment that achieved remarkable success. The London Metropolitan Police achieved fame for its ability to uphold the law and use of minimum force in controlling disorder problems. Police under the British rule. The enactment of legal codes was initiated in 1609 when Captain Hawkins, trader for East India Company, landed at Surat. It is believed British first came to India. Eventually, almost after more than a century, the company began to play a role in the processes of government. This imperial rule was with the purpose to compete for the trading concessions, to lay down its commercial establishments, and to strive for favours at the courts of then rule including Mughals. The British initially worked with the Mughal system of administration, but after their victory in Plassey in 1757, they created the famed Indian Civil Services for the purpose of collecting revenue and providing general administration at the district level. In 1792, Lord Cornwallis imposed new police regulations in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa that put an end to the keeping of armed militias by the zamindars. The entire country was divided into districts headed by the district magistrate and subdivided into various police stations area. A daroga was in charge of each police area and reported to the district magistrate. The district magistrate cum collector became the de facto ruler and representative of British Raj and controlled the police who operated through the daroga system. There was absence of a well-organized police system made the task of maintaining law and order in a vast country difficult. There were roaming bands of dacoits, thugs and expensive demands on the military to maintain order, unsatisfactory police system being neither effective nor able to keep the trading routes safe. It also reflected a corrupt, brutal and inefficient picture of the ruling power. Now about the armed police model of Sindh. Charles Napier created it after its takeover in 1843. Model based on Royal Irish Constabulary that played an important role in suppressing the Fenian uprising in Ireland in 1876. Napier reorganized the police according to two principles. One, the police must be separated completely from the military. Second, they must be an entirely independent body. They were to be commanded by their own officers in discharging their responsibilities for law and order under the collectors who were responsible for general civil administration. Napier's system also provided for an Inspector General of Police who was responsible for the administration of force throughout the territory. However, the responsibility of law and order was assumed by the government. British were attracted by the system as it provided a paramilitary organization that was trained like the army to operate in remote areas where there were poor communications and people were hostile to the government. These principles were later on extended to Punjab but somewhat modified in the 1850s in Madras, where the majority of the constables remained unarmed, but a section was kept as an armed reserve in each district. The Madras Police Act 1859, a police structure partly military, partly civil within a single organization, became the basic structure of the Indian police. The total integration of the police within the colonial state was a feature borrowed from the Irish colonial experience. The police was designed to establish a relationship of control, coercion, and surveillance over a subjugated, colonized population, and its structural and organizational features supported a regime of exploitation and surplus appropriation. Despite the success of the armed model, corruption, brutality, and inefficiency prevalent in the police stations continued to discredit the British rule in the country. The British could not rely on the army, for it was expensive to maintain a large standing body of men, and further it was clear that the army could be used only for putting down rebellions and for the defense on the border. A civilian police was needed to be reduced, what by the 1850s had to come to be seen as a dangerous reliance on the army for internal policing. Yet the British wanted a police force that could develop a sense of fear of authority in the entire population and could serve as the first line of defense. After facing a real threat of losing power in 1857, the British rulers were further determined to ensure complete suppression of all challenges to their power. British sought solutions to basically two problems regarding police of that time. First, in what ways the ruling power can make use of the traditional rural police. Second, in what ways the imperial power may be organized with respect to its different and most important responsibilities, including the law and order and revenue collection. The mutiny broke out in 1857. The British were made to realize of the responsibilities of imperial dominations in such a vast territory. Hence, the Government of India Act was passed in 1858, which abolished the company and transferred the governance of India to the Queen in Parliament. The enactment of legal codes like the Code of Civil Procedure, the Indian Penal Code in 1860 and the Code of Criminal Procedure in 1861 were a result of a police commission which was appointed in 1860 for the purpose of studying then police needs of the country and government. As a result of deliberations held by this commission, the Police Act of 1861 came into being. Police Commission, August 1860. The reorganization acknowledged aim of making police an efficient instrument for the prevention and detection of crime. The commission was told to bear in mind that functions of a police are either protective and repressive or detective, and that the line which separate the protective and the repressive functions of a civil force from functions purely military may not always in India be very clear. The police commissioner system in India was originally influenced by the London Metropolitan Police. The three presidency towns of Madras, Bombay and Calcutta developed a police organization around a police commissioner system. The commissioner reported directly to the provincial government and not through Inspector General of Police. The commissioner combined the law and order purposes with the power of district magistrate and superintendent of police. The presidency cities were treated as urban districts, but the commissioner of police acted as his own district magistrate. A clear separation was made between military forces utilized for police duties and an armed reserve of a police force. Eventually, military forces were eliminated and the armed forces were kept. Apart from the duty of law and order, crime control, some other specialized forces grew as well, such as railway police, river police and frontier police. The Police Act 1861 applied to all the parts of British India except Bombay and Madras. It was like a legal backbone of the police system. It provided the organizational structure. It also provided the hierarchy of the police force. According to the Article 2 of the Police Act 1861, the entire police force established under state government shall, for the purpose of this act, be deemed to be one police force, meaning thereby the police would be organized at the levels of the state or provinces. It means this act was stipulated only for the purpose of order maintenance, crime control and surveillance. Nowhere was it felt that there was the need of involving community in policing in any way. On the other hand, Indian Penal Code evidently prioritized any resistance against politics as a serious offence. Article 4 of the Police Act 1861 states that the administration of the police throughout the province shall be vested in the IGP, assisted by Deputy Inspector General of Police and the Superintendent of Police. It means that it clearly stated the organization of police, recognition of higher organization, that is, the crucial aspect of investing of all administrative power in this part of the organization, placing the center of the command, control and decision making at this top, which was indeed staffed by only the British officers. Further, it's important to know that till 1921, no Indian was permitted to serve in the commanding positions. The key positions like IGP, DIG and SP of the district were sole preserved for the British officers. Police Commission of 1860 had seen no reason for the creation of a separate detective or intelligence branch. The Indian National Congress 1885 led to the formation of intelligence agency for collection of information regarding political, social, movement and organized crime. The Madras Police in 1888 set up a special branch with wide-ranging duties. Attempts were made to regularize recruitment, payment and duties of the village police, beginning with the Village Chowkidari Act of 1870. Eventually, the power of the panchayats was gradually shifted to superintendents and the district magistrate. In 1902, Lord Curzon, who was Viceroy of India, set up a new police commission which resulted in the reports which talked about criticism in then existing police system. It strongly endorsed the organizational principle discussed in 1861. According to the main principles of organizations of police, the Police Commission of 1860 talked about elimination of military police, establishment of a civil constabulary, separate administrative civil police establishment in each province headed by IGP. The IGP was made responsible to the provincial government. Superintendent was made responsible to civilian collector. The work of superintendent was to supervise the village police. These principles of the Police Act were neither innovatory nor novel. They were mere extension to arrangements already found useful in several areas. The Daroga, for example, didn't disappear. He became the sub-inspector of police. There were some questions based on these principles, like what should be the relation between imperial and rural police, how should imperial police administration coordinated with other functions of imperial's authority. Lastly, for concluding the module, it's important to know that the British during the second 100 years of their rule in India made no structural reforms in police administration. The imperial police's relation with the rural police and the other agencies of imperial government remained fixed in the mold of 1861. The new structure applied only to the British India. The rest of the India kept following the police system as it had for ages. The principles of supervision of police by civilian administrative authority has been preserved, except of course in cities which have commissioner of police. The Police Act stated that administration of police was to be vested in IGP at province level and superintendents at district level. The SP was to hold his charge under the general control and direction of the district magistrate. This phrase is now assumed to mean that the superintendent independent with respect to internal management of the force. The district magistrate or collector is responsible for the correct use of that force in coping with security problems of that district. Independence did not bring any distinguishing change to the police administration. Some positive initiative of this era included establishment of Chemical Engineers Department at the Punjab and later on other provinces was a precursor of modern forensic science laboratories. Finally, the fingerprint technology also developed in India by an IGP in Bengal, Sir Edward Henry. Thank you.